Hi, I'm Art Bergeron, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell, which is actually right here in Westborough. We have 20 of our lawyers here. But this is not about my day job. This is about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've been to any of my presentations, you know that Frank and Mary's goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that means you live in Westborough and you identify with that, that means you. So the point of this show is to help you know the people you need to know about and the programs you need to know about to do just that, to stay right here in Westborough. And my good friend Shelby Marshall, who is now being very careful because of we got a
sick kiddo,
a sick child. You know, we can all identify with this. But Shelby is the person who actually finds all these great guests that we talk to, and we've really expanded the show over time to talk about not just things that are exclusively of interest to you if you identify with Frank and Mary, but that are interest to you because you're people who live here in Westborough. And so you want to know about the programs that are going on, the programs that are affecting your tax dollars, who you need to reach if you've got a problem. So we've got great guests today, and this is a program, this is kind of like, we did a teaser on this about, several months ago because we talked about this program that was coming up, and now it's come, so we're going to talk about it. So Shelby, always a pleasure.
Pleasure, great
You
to
look
see you.
great. I love that smile.
Thank you.
It's a winning
Thanks.
smile.
It's all about the eyes. Excellent. Well,
So
I'm
who
so
we
excited.
got here today?
I'm so excited. We have our police chief, Jeff Lourie, and our Lieutenant Mike Daniels here to talk to us today about body-worn cameras. So we talked, as you mentioned, Arthur, they were our guests via Zoom several months ago, and they were talking about how this was coming, and now it's here in Westborough. We're out of the pilot phase of kind of testing. It's been adopted, as the guys will tell us, throughout the department, and so I'm going to turn it over to them because we've got a full show. So.
Well, thank you for having us, and we appreciate the opportunity to educate the public on where we're at. It has been a long, arduous process. Several grants were written by Lieutenant Daniels. We also received recent funding. Our state representatives put us in the budget. We just received $38,000 there. So there's been minimal cost to the taxpayer, but again, I want to thank Westborough Town Meeting for supporting this program because there is a lot of storage issues and redacting issues, and they approved not just funding, but allowing another lieutenant, administrative lieutenant. So that is why Lieutenant Daniels now is here, and his responsibilities are dealing with police officers, Standards and Training Commission, and we believe there's going to be a lot of changes coming there as well. We just gave an update on accreditation. Lieutenant Daniels, he spearheads that. So this is part of his duties and responsibilities. Pleased to say that last month was a trial month.
Yeah.
It went very well. And I can tell you, just from a chief's standpoint, we had 2 complaints filed. We were able to go back, look at the videos, and determine that we did not violate any policy, and what was being alleged was just not true.
And that was such a big deal. I remember when we were talking about this on Zoom, that you had this ability not only to analyze that, but also if there was a problem,
Correct.
to then be able to really kind of have your men participate, or your men and women participate in terms of saying, so how do we make sure that doesn't happen again? So it's a real
That's
big
absolutely
deal. Yeah.
true. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a great training tool for us as well to make sure we're doing things right. And we fully expect that the subcommittees for body-worn cameras are going to come out probably this summer with some recommendations, and we may have to make some changes again too. So this is going to be a fluid program, and I'm very proud to say that the staff, has really welcomed this. I think it's going to help us, more than the issues that we'll have to face in dealing with taking some corrective action. And in many cases, it's just a retraining tool. But I'll turn the floor over to my illustrious lieutenant to explain where we're at.
Now, wasn't he a sergeant the last time we were on?
He was.
He's just now. Do you think it was this TV show that helped? It could have been. Was it the ratings? That's great. That's great. If he's on too much, he's going to be the new you.
I'm good with
They're going to invite you, right?
I'm good with that.
Well, thank you, everyone. So my name is Lieutenant Mike Daniels. I'm the Administrative Lieutenant for the Westborough Police Department. As the Chief said, the body-worn camera program has been a success. It's been actually a long time coming. We've been working on this project for well over a year and a half. And finally, it's come to fruition. As Shelby said, we had a pilot program back in March. It just recently ended, so now everyone is live. with the body cameras. So I can't really take credit for the slide deck that I'm about to present, and you'll see it on your screen shortly. Sergeant Cliff Luce, who helps out with kind of the technical aspect of things, prepared this, and this was presented at the select board meeting. So really, this is the body-worn camera. This is the Axon Body Camera 3. You know, it has, from the specification sheet, it has about 12 plus hours of battery life, 30 frames per second is the capture speed, and it's got a 146-degree field of view, which helps to capture a large scene. And, you know, we have to take into consideration the size of the officer and things like that, so the wide angle works extremely well. This piece of equipment has GPS in it, so if our officer is lost or they have to, you know, and they're in a pursuit or they have to run after someone, we can track where they are. It also has LTE cell phone antennas inside it, and also Wi-Fi. It's equipped with 4 microphones, so we make sure that we can capture, you know, as much sound, and the sound is fantastic on it. So just an overview, as I said, it captures video at 480 VGA and 720 HD. That doesn't mean a whole lot to people, but for us it means a lot because we want to be able to see video at the highest resolution to make sure that what we're seeing is true to the eye.
And I think at some point you're going to show us both through the slides here
Yep.
and the video of kind of this in action, right?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
So if you look at our next slide, it's the low light test. So what Sergeant Luce was able to do, he was able to take the old technology and he compared it with the technology that we have. So if you really look at the slide I'm about to show you on the left side, you see an officer approaching a dark environment. And the video camera is not, that's the old Axon Body 2. The camera's not really capturing much because it's low light. With this technology and the upgraded software and the camera on it, we're able to see that same environment, but the exposure is heightened so we can see everything. And that's usually some of the problems that some other departments have with older technology. They get into these situations where they wish they had more visibility, and it's just not there. And you can see in the next example, an officer's walking down a hallway, and there's, on the left side, there's an individual. You can't really see them because they're in the shadows, but the body camera 3, the Axon Body Camera 3, can pick the individual up walking along the hallway, and that's important. A lot of times, officers can pick that up through some sight and sound. Cameras don't always do that. That's why it's important to have high resolution and low light capabilities. I talked about the resolution earlier, 1080 HD, 720p. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to most people unless you're buying a large
plasma TV or
yes,
whatever
exactly.
the newest thing is, right.
But for us, it makes a significant difference. There's a comparison here for reduced blur. On the left side, we have a lower resolution camera, which is the same. It's not the Body 3, it's the Body 2, the older edition. The resolution on the right, you can see it's much clearer, crystal clear, as a matter of fact, and you can make out more detail, which obviously is important.
And again, both for training purpose as well as investigation purposes, right? So this individual, let's say, gets away or something. Now you've got a very clear picture as opposed to before it was like the face is a little bit muddled and any maybe body markings, tattoos, etc. would be really prominent in the new Axon. Yep.
Right. So and the last slide really is just it's showing the same thing, just a different view, but. That's pretty much it. I'd like to show a video clip. It's just going to take me a moment to pull it up because I think. Go ahead, Chief.
And I can explain a couple of things while the lieutenant's doing that. What's really kind of neat about this device is we can also. We're going to be implementing technology where when the officer turns on his emergency lights in his cruiser, the body camera will turn on. If an officer has to draw their taser or their firearm, we'll have technology where the camera will automatically turn on. Because sometimes in stressful situations, you're not thinking about maybe, activating the body camera. And how you activate it is you double tap right here on the device, and then you hold it for a period of seconds to turn it off. And what's really good about this is when you turn it on, it goes back 30 seconds. So it's constantly recording 30 seconds.
Wow.
So if the officer does get out of the car and something happens, and he takes him a little time, he'll have that 30 seconds back, which I think is just absolutely an amazing tool to make sure we create or capture what's actually happening.
Yes, like how do they do that?
Yeah, and
No,
Chief,
I should describe
if you
it.
could just show our viewers where that would sit. Yeah.
Right here.
Right.
Right. So, it might be a little different for other officers. We have officers that are much smaller in stature, so they may have to wear it a little bit higher to capture everything. But generally,
Right,
it's going
because you
to
want a view that's
Exactly.
It's not necessarily at like someone's stomach level.
Right.
And
Right,
you want
gotcha,
the
yeah.
officer's view. What is the officer actually seeing?
Yep,
What
got
is
it.
the officer actually experiencing?
Yep.
And you'll see that when you have multiple cameras on a scene,
right.
you really do get a real clear.
Yep.
Right. So, I'm going to show a video clip. This is from a newer officer, Officer LaPearl, and this is a mock motor vehicle stop. You guys saw it on the select board meeting, and we just pulled this clip to demonstrate what the officer is seeing and to actually show you the buffer. There's a portion of my screen that shows exactly where the video was taken because it's pulling data from GPS. So when I go in, if there's a discovery request for some video, I can tell exactly where that officer was standing when he was dealing or she was dealing with the call. So I'm going to show this clip. It got everybody laughed at the select board meeting, but so what you're seeing now is. Officer LaPearl is driving into the back of the Westborough Police headquarters. And right now it's in its buffer state. So it's always recording, right? But what you're not getting is you're not getting the audio right now. So he's going to pull in, and Sergeant Luce actually is the officer that's going to be stopped. So you should hear. So that's what the officer hears. So this is Officer LaPearl's camera, and you're seeing exactly what he sees. And look how crystal clear it is.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, officer. What can I do for you?
Officer for Westborough Police Department, you're being audio and video recorded. Did you got your license registration on you?
Sure.
The reason I stopped you, sir, is you're using your cell phone going down Route 9.
Caught me. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I apologize.
You can tell this is staged.
Oh, my registration? Yeah, that's...
Thank you. Sit down. I'll be back with it.
Okay, thank you.
See that other, you see the other officer there. If you
Yeah.
turn, you could see him in his field of vision. It's amazing.
Yep. So you're going to see the officer. He's just,
Yeah.
going through the motions
Sure.
here. But that's essentially what it's all about. I'll just cut it off here. I mean, there really isn't.
Yep.
Just going
Yep.
back up
Yep.
to the.
But I
But
think that field of vision where he turned, I mean, again, let's be clear, right? So nationally, Jeff, you've talked a lot about this. There have just been some horrific situations. So, one bad situation from a police officer, unfortunately kind of taints the pool, right? It doesn't mean
does.
everyone's bad. But this really gives, I love it because it gives your officers a level of protection, but it also gives those that are being stopped, right?
Right.
A level of protection and assurance. And as well as if you can talk about like bystanders and how the redaction piece, because we've talked a lot about that, as we were in our last meeting here, or last interview, as well as with the selectmen. That's a really important part of this
It's
process.
a lot of work.
It is.
It's a lot of work, and this is all about transparency, and it's we want that public trust, right? I mean, 21st century policing, President Obama, it's public perception, and this is definitely going to help us. Where it's a lot of work, and that's why, again, not to be redundant, thank you, town meeting. He's got to go through all these videos, and if there are kids in the videos or other license plates or other people, he has to redact those. Nothing to do with the incident, the crime, the stop, but he's got to do. It's a lot of work, and And they recommend that it's above a line supervisor doing this work, which is why we really needed this lieutenant's position, why it
Yep.
was absolutely mission
And
critical.
just to be clear, redaction doesn't mean erase. It means from an evidence perspective that
Pulling
that
out-
it's just like black lining through.
Correct.
Right.
And it's a lot of work. And if you can imagine, there are certain scenes where you have multiple officers that are on scene. So that's multiple videos
Sure.
for one
Sure.
one criminal case.
Right.
And I'll let you
Yeah.
explain further on how long we have to store these videos and
So, really going back to what the chief said, the whole redaction process, it takes quite some time, simply because, and I'll give you a quick example. We had a situation a few weeks back where multiple officers responded to and operating under the influence. And so there were 4 officers there until the supervisor got there and told the others to leave. But I have to go through everyone's video from the point that they were driving to the call until they shut it off when the call resolves. So for this particular incident, I'm looking at 45, 50 minutes of video from one officer. And then I have to go to the next camera and look at video for the second officer or whoever else is there on scene from start to finish. With that being said, so we follow a retention schedule in accordance with public record law. So there's some things that we have a retention schedule for 30 days. It might be a medical because someone we went on a medical with the fire department, and we don't really need that because it's not a call per se. We're responding as
Right.
first responders, but then we have traffic stops. We have a 30-day period for that, I believe. 3 years, 7 years, 10 years, and then there's some that are indefinite, and that's where the cost comes in, right? We're not really worried about the regular calls that come in, but the schedule, the records that hold the scheduling time for indefinite, that's what takes up a lot of time in storage. We've been monitoring it very closely. We're doing great, and the officers, they've received it very, very well, and I think we're kind of groundbreaking in this area for Westborough District Court. So, and I love that aspect of it. So,
Well, and when you talk about going through the videos, like in that example where you have 4 officers, you also are looking at it, I would imagine, as also timestamp as well, right?
Yes.
Because, officer 1 arrives and then the next officer is 2 minutes behind.
Right.
So now you're trying to sync up, other than their videos, you're watching 4
Right.
different videos, and how are they interacting and what is the situation?
and the other thing too that I didn't account for was once I've extracted what I need, it takes some time to download,
Yeah?
right? And then I have to transfer it to either a CD until there's a better way. It takes a while,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we'll work it out, and it will become more efficient as time goes on.
And that's the big, when I came to the board and I came to finance and to town meeting to say, there is a commitment here, and it's north of $20,000 to keep this program alive.
Annually.
Annually. My hope is, quite frankly, we've embraced post. We believe that certification is a good thing. I've been talking about this back when I was a sergeant working in Auburn. I'm hoping that in time what happens is the state takes this over and says, you know what, we're going to mandate this, and we'll send all our video. We'll still have to do all the redaction,
Right.
but that cost,
Yep.
that hopefully will be taken off the
Right, so
taxpayer in
we would own the
Westboro.
labor component, but the data storage.
And that's
that
years
is
away.
offset. Yeah,
That's years
yeah.
and years away.
Right. It's kind of like the way the GIS stuff evolved. And it was like town by town, and then eventually
Yep.
people came to realize there were advantages to having all the towns have it. And so
Right.
it really becomes,
And that's it. And I'm very, and I say this, I hate to be a broken record, but I play a small part in this. I've
Yeah.
got a fantastic team, as Lieutenant Daniels alluded to, that, like I said, they work extremely hard for the town of Westborough, and the town of Westborough has supported us in so many ways with state-of-the-art equipment such as this, that in the end it's going to, you said, it's going to help us to make sure if we're doing something that's not quite right, that we take that corrective action. It's going to show the public this is what happened if someone makes a false allegation towards the police, and it's going to definitely strengthen our ability in the courtroom
Yeah.
because it's going to show exactly, what the officers are facing. And it's from bottom, from our most junior officer, and you see in the video you saw, he was brand new officer at the time with his training officer. We take training, we take our jobs very seriously here. We hire very hard to hopefully the lieutenant and I can manage a little easier. But I just want to really commend my staff in the town for the overwhelming support. And that's kind of why I really embrace being here today, is to say to the public, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right.
I'm going to come to you when I believe, as the chief, as the temporary caretaker of this agency, that I'm going to come to you when there's a need. And like I said, nice to haves are great. I think this is a need. We have embraced it. I know as a chief, very proud of my staff for the way they've basically come to terms with this is the direction that law enforcement is going, and we're on board.
Let me just ask, we saw in the training video that the officer said, very quickly, knock, 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 and I know it was for training purposes, said you are being recorded. There was a line there. Have any experience so far with someone saying, you can't record me, or like any issues there? I mean, I would imagine
Right.
you can.
You're breaching my
but,
privacy,
But,
right.
someone that's kind of, and how do you handle that? I mean, is it just like we have a right to do it?
Right.
How does that work?
So a couple of things. We haven't had any incidents like that
Yep.
so far. I think the public kind of embraces it
Yep.
because it's something that
Well, everyone has a phone too, right?
Right,
Right.
and so that's the other point. I think a lot of the issues that we would run into would be if we encroached on someone's private property, right? In which case, if someone asks us to turn off the camera, we've given the officer the ability to turn it off without repercussions, right? Because you're in someone's private residence, and they have a right to privacy. Now, that's not to say, if someone we're chasing runs through someone's house and they say shut off the camera, the officer has to shut
Right.
off the camera.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
it's we have exigent circumstances that exist, so it's not going to allow the officer to do that, and so they won't be punished for that. But if time allows and safety allows, the officer may oblige, and they'll say
Right.
on the footage,
Yeah.
they're asking me to shut this off because, and then when they clear, they say, okay, this
Turn
is
it back
resolved
on.
this way, right?
Right.
So I'm just curious, is there any, now that you've been, this has been going for a little while now.
Yes.
A month.
Would you say that any surprises, from this point, have you run into something you said, we hadn't really thought about this, anything that's been unusual at this point, or are you figuring it's kind of working the way you would hope that it would work?
Like I said, we've been working on this for a year and a half, and we've
Yeah.
been prepping, Sergeant Luce and I and the chief and the deputy chief have been prepping our staff for it. So, they knew what to expect, they knew it was coming, and it's operated smoothly. We haven't had any issues, as the chief said. We've had a few complaints, but they were handled. But there wasn't anything that we haven't really anticipated. We went through numerous policies to really create the one that fits for Westborough.
Right.
And that's how a good policy is made, right? So if you have a good policy, your people can operate smoothly
Right.
with confidence, and so
Right.
whatever they see is not going to be unexpected.
And have you found, I realize it's been a brief time now, but this has been going, that you have had any of those cases where you have gone back and looked at something that has happened and that's been recorded?
Yeah, we do that actually a lot. Supervisors will make a request to
Yeah.
see, hey, this guy was on this motor vehicle stop for X amount of time. Can I have permission to look? And
To look at.
And that's
Yeah.
important. That
Yeah.
permission piece is really important. And because you spoke to the selectman about that, it can't just be kind of willy-nilly, like, I
Right.
want to do this. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so the whole system is actually tightly controlled. And as the chief alluded to earlier, executive command staff have access to it. That excludes the chief, right, for internal affairs reasons. So the deputy chief and the 3 lieutenants have access to the videos. I control most of it, so when somebody sends a request, everything's tracked. We have an audit trail that's
I get it.
built into the system that shows a request was made. It shows everything that I've done to that video, so there's nothing that can be hidden, right? And I just had one today, a request, and when I sent that request out, the audit trail gets sent out with it. So
Right.
whoever
That
receives
digital
it,
footprint.
yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whoever sees it, they'll read the metadata and they'll say, okay, this was you know, this part of this clip was taken out, this was done, this was redacted, this was
Right.
blurred out, right? So it's a good system.
Yeah.
That's pretty, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, you just say to yourself, wow, this isn't your grandfather's police department, you know,
And,
this is just.
and I didn't actually explain this, I'd like to, at the meeting. I didn't want people to think, oh, the chief doesn't want to do any work. I don't have access to our evidence room,
Yeah.
and I don't have access to this. So basically, there is no way that I could have altered anything if someone is alleging something.
If there's an issue.
So it's all about checks and balances. And like I said, having this administrative lieutenant is going to really make us a stronger police department and more efficient police department. And it's, I got to tell you, we've leaps and bounds, you know, since he took his oath as to be a lieutenant. And we're doing well. And if anyone does have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out to myself or Lieutenant Daniels, and we will get back to you.
Yeah. No, I think this is great. I mean, I
been
can
terrific.
see
Yep.
this even, you know, as it gets used more and more, and you have more experience and more situations, as a way to engage the community, particularly those that may be particularly fearful of the police based on whatever their life experiences have been, to show them, you know, how this is a tool for them. So, I mean, I think it's great, and, you know, regardless of kind of the age of those in Westborough. And I'm so glad we've embraced it as a town, and it really, you know, is an advancement for this department. So thank you both.
And if people had a question about any of this, because this is really interesting, but people may just have a question. So who should they call, and what's the best number or the best email address to call? And we'll make sure that this goes on
they
as
can
a banner on
notify
the show.
Lieutenant Daniels or myself. You
Yeah.
can call dispatch, leave us a voice message.
Yeah.
Our emails are right on
the
the
website.
department website.
That's
What's
great.
the best number for the like administrative number?
So the number would be 508-475-4837. So that's my direct line.
Yeah.
I'm usually there during day shift, sometimes after hours. So, but I will get back.
Yeah, he's going to be on that, but he's going to be redacting. He's going to
Yeah.
it's like, please hold.
Mad scientist.
I'm
yeah.
working on it.
His next gig is like a TikToker. I can see it happening, right?
I'm good with social media. So.
Right.
So Shelby, thanks for
is
doing
great.
this.
Thank you
Shelby
both.
inevitably does this. You know, folks, I hope you this is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. You know, and it's like cutting edge in a way that is just so positive in terms of the goal of, I think, what this chief has really been striving for, which is this tremendous transparency and therefore the credibility of the police, which is just so important every place. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Shelby.
Okay, it's
And I
great.
hope your child is feeling better soon. And folks, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.